There are a lot of Metroidvanias out there. I should know, I've played a bunch of them. Some are clearly better than others, but there are some out there that get all kinds of love for whatever reason that I just don't understand. These Metroidvanias are what we call overrated. They could be good, they could even be great, but for some reason they get praised, discussed, and hyped in proportions far exceeding their quality. You know the MVs I'm talking about. The ones that are good, but not that good. Those are the MVs I'm talking about today. I'm the Metroidvania Guru, and these are the top 10 most overrated Metroidvanias.
Number 10.
Carrion is fine. It's fine. As a video game, it's pretty cool. A reverse horror game. Be the monster, eat all the humans, and escape the underground secret lab. Neat concept. But as a Metroidvania, it's a little lackluster. There's no map and most of the environments look the same, making navigation a real pain in the ass. And this gets exacerbated with the game's poor world design. The levels aren't technically interconnected and instead linked to a hub area. And this hub area model is unclear at first because there's no map. Top off that the game has no bosses, no alternate endings, and has lame rewards for backtracking its confusing world. And I just don't understand why MV enthusiasts love this game so much. It's unsettling, and I'm not just talking about the monster.
Number 9.
Ready? Once you go up, there is no turning back.
Fist's characters use the word "furtisans" with a straight face. That's enough for me to hate this game, but that's not the only reason this game isn't that great. It's the bloat. Fist pads its playtime in some pretty lame ways. To get the information you need to progress the story, you gotta play through 2 different biomes. Gotta go underwater? You have to explore a biome to get the underwater mask, and then go to where you need to go to use the mask. Why not just consolidate all this stuff? It'd cut a couple hours off the game, but that's not a bad thing. I've spoken to many people, and the general consensus about Fist is that they were tired of the game long before it was over. And I agree. Fist definitely overstays its welcome. I liked its combat, but it wasn't enough to compensate for its padding and its predictable and boring story. Plus, I thought the game looked ugly. But I don't really like steampunk in 2.5D, so there's that. Also, furtisans.
Number 8.
They came for my home.
I'll be the first to tell you that I actually love Time Spinner. But I'll also be the first to tell you that it is by far the worst time travel game, at least in this timeline. It has exactly one time travel mechanic, and it doesn't even use it properly. And the timeline manipulation is absolutely nonsensical. You hardly affect the timeline in any meaningful way, aside from burning a couple of vines, and the major plot beats that affect timelines don't even make sense. How is killing a couple of demons in the past going to take down only one of the 3 lasers on this barrier, huh? And when you do all 3 things you're supposed to do in the past, you just have a ship wreck into the barrier anyway? It's seriously dumb. Almost as dumb as the game's juvenile dialogue. When you're not scratching your head over your player character getting distracted by your own enemies or by the constant sex jokes and references, you're free to enjoy the game's other riveting dialogue. There's no denying Time Spinner's beautiful and has great music, but that's about all it has going for it. This is a classic case of beauty only being skin deep.
Number 7.
The Messenger's better at being a Ninja Gaiden ripoff than a Symphony of the Night ripoff. I mean, homage. Let's not get it twisted. The Messenger's a great game with fun platforming, good combat, and genuinely funny writing. But there's a little piece of me that wishes it didn't turn into a Metroidvania halfway through the game. When I first played it, its genre shift blew my mind. But after replaying it, I found I preferred the front half of the game over its latter half. The MV portion just felt boring my second go round. I don't know if it was the portal shifting gimmick that made backtracking obnoxious, or if it was just revisiting the same biomes over again, but it felt like a slog most of the time. Maybe exploration would have been better if the game had true fast travel instead of a waypoint system. At least the music made the monotonous treks feel shorter. Some of those tracks are straight fire. This guy gets it.
Number 6.
In the beginning, only chaos existed.
Some people love Aeterna Noctis, and I hear these same people sometimes compare it to Hollow Knight, which is, quite frankly, laughable to an absurd degree. Aeterna Noctis is nowhere near Hollow Knight in any respect besides length, and boy is this game long. Longer than it has any right to be, considering its narrative is nothing to write home about and never really hooks you. But you don't come to Aeterna Noctis for the story, you come for its tough-as-nails platforming. Admittedly, the platforming's fun, especially with the teleporting arrow move, and some of the boss encounters are challenging yet enjoyable. But it's just so long! The game's challenge beats you down to the point where playing it is just exhausting. Cut every biome in half, and I guarantee the game would be better for it. High difficulty gameplay over long periods of time tends to burn players out, and that's if its busy environments don't burn out their retinas first.
Number 5.
Ori and the Blind Forest is a great Metroidvania, but have you played Ori and the Will of the Wisps? That game's hands down better in every respect. It's not debatable. It's an objective fact. Then why do I see so many people saying Blind Forest is better? It doesn't make any sense. Will of the Wisps has everything Blind Forest has and more. And if Wisps lacks anything Blind Forest has, it replaces it with something better. In Wisps, there's more to discover, side quests, it looks better, though both games look phenomenal. It actually has bosses instead of chase sequences, a larger map, better world building with NPCs, an equally tragic villain, way better combat and customization, and the list goes on and on. What's Blind Forest got? Lame homing lightning and a stupid checkpoint/saving system that most people complained about. If you're one of those people out there saying Blind Forest is the superior game, you either haven't played Will of the Wisps or are letting nostalgia blind you, just like how your inferior forest is blind.
Got him!
Number 4.
Ever play Metroid on the NES? The guy who made Axium Verge sure has. That's not even a dig. I don't know why I started this entry like that. Axium Verge is an obtuse game set in an obtuse world with obtuse characters against obtuse backdrops and an obtuse plot. And literally none of its ambiguity or vagueness gets resolved by the end of the game. So that's fun. Regardless, Axiom Verge is a wild ride with great atmosphere and almost nothing else. Don't get me wrong, I like the game. Just maybe they could stop giving me guns. And when you hear an American say that, that means something. I have no idea what to do with all the guns they give you in this game. Most of them suck, or at the very least are terrible. And cycling through them all has got to be a meme, right? Thomas Happ's surely trolling us with this. And if that's not trolling, making the lab coat activate by pressing forward on the D-pad twice definitely is. Axiom Verge is a pretty good Metroidvania, but its pretentiousness makes it hard to take seriously. Plus, Axiom Verge 2 is better.
Number 3.
Metroid Dreads, a terrible Metroidvania. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. I could say spaghetti is a terrible sandwich. That doesn't mean spaghetti's bad food. Spaghetti's good food, and Dread's a good game. But both are bad Metroidvanias. In Dread, subtly guided non-linear exploration has been replaced with tiny sections that box you in until you find the one and only solution to move forward. And the reward for backtracking and extracurricular exploration is never rewarded with anything good. The good stuff's regulated to the game's critical path, and any deviation from this path is punished with missile upgrades. And it will always be missile upgrades, or maybe a bomb upgrade, but never anything interesting. And when exploration's this unexciting, it really doesn't matter how good your combat is. The Metroid franchise really needs to up its game if Samus's outings are less thrilling than a tiny bug's.
Number 2.
Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night is a good game with a big name behind it. I'm not going to waste your time explaining who Igarashi is. You already know who he is, and I'm pretty sure he's the reason why people think this game's so great. It's crazy how celebrity can trick people into thinking a mid-game is excellent. But in actuality, this game's just okay. Unless you're playing it on the Switch. Then it's a goddamn crime against humanity. Regardless of the system you play it on, you're still going to get a middle-of-the-road Metroidvania with far too many features, none of which add a whole lot to the experience. Cooking, crafting, grinding, alchemy, shopping, none of it really adds up to much of anything because Igavanias are always best when you let RNGesus take the wheel. Typically, enemy drops and thorough exploration net you better and stronger gear than anything Johannes could make. And then there are the amateurish bottlenecks. Those parts that completely halt all game progression unless you do the one obscure thing needed to move forward. The most egregious of these bottlenecks is the stupid ID card needed for the train. How was I supposed to know I needed to visit the librarian after getting my picture taken? The fact that the librarian could even make ID cards was never explained or offered to the player and makes zero sense. But there's a lot of things about this game that make zero sense. Like how they added the little girl from Child of Light to be a main character years after the game's release. What's Child of Light? Exactly. Bloodstained is just odd, but not always for the right reasons.
Number 1.
I have never played a more aggressively mediocre game than the Mummy Demastered in my life. Here's the thing, it's good. I have very little negative things to say about it. It's a little unbalanced. The second boss turns up the difficulty suddenly, and then after defeating it, you can do a big old loop on the map and get nearly 3 times stronger before heading to the next biome. But I'm cool with that. The knockback is complete bullshit, but you get a relic in the late game that negates it. Combat's fun, the guns are neat, bosses are big, and the presentation's solid. I mean, it was developed by WayForward. There's not a whole lot to ding this game for, but there's not a whole lot making me come back to it either. It's just an okay game. I'm constantly seeing it on top 10 best lists, and every time it goes on sale, YouTubers tell you it's a must buy for MV fans. But like, it's just okay. Should MV enthusiasts play it? Sure, you'll have fun. Just don't expect the next Hollow Knight or Ender Lilies or Symphony. I think this disparity of greatness stems from the fact that Mummy Demastered is a movie tie-in game, and movie tie-in games are historically awful. Add on that the movie this game's a tie-in for is also awful, and we should have the perfect concoction for one of the shittiest games ever made. Yet WayForward defied destiny and somehow gave us a game that's good? Just good. I don't have much else to say about it. Go play it. You'll have a sufficiently adequate time. And that's why it's the most overrated Metroidvania.